Disney's latest movie Zootopia has something for everyone. Cute talking animals, a positive message of social acceptance, crack cocaine. Truly a movie for the whole family. Hello Internet, welcome to Film Theory, the show that makes it slightly less creepy that I'm sitting solo in a movie theater watching a Disney movie surrounded by screaming children. But seriously, I love Disney movies. In a time where the world is so full of fear, hate, and YouTube rage comments, it's nice to visit a bright, colorful fantasy world where things are simpler, happier. Who am I kidding? Disney movies are dark. Bambi's mom dies, Pinocchio gets kidnapped and sold into slavery, Scar gets eaten alive, but Zootopia may just be the darkest of the bunch. If you haven't seen it, you totally should. Right now, in fact. Not only is it a fun movie, but this video is just riddled with spoilers. So consider yourself warned. To catch you up though, Zootopia tells the story of Judy Hopps, an ambitious young rabbit who fulfills her dream of becoming the first rabbit police officer in the history of this all-animal society. Here in Zootopia, predators and prey coexist peacefully, but some predators have mysteriously gone missing as of late, and it's up to Judy to crack the case. Not only is it a really fun detective story, Zootopia also shines some light on really important social issues, like how gosh darn slow the DMV is. God, simultaneously hilarious, just downright depressing. But when you look beyond its cute animals as humans cover, Zootopia is truly a story about race. The idea of the minority group in society, the predators, facing prejudice and mistreatment from the majority is a pretty thinly veiled allusion to America's spotty history of race relations. Don't believe me? We see an ice cream parlor refuse to serve a predator, police being quicker to draw weapons against predators, and even Judy hypothesizes that predators are biologically more savage than prey. Man, those are some heavy themes. I feel bad for those parents who made the responsible choice to take their kids to Zootopia instead of Deadpool. A good idea, but now I have to try and explain eugenics to a 4-year-old. But while the Zootopia is about racism concept may not be surprising to an astute viewer, it goes even deeper than that. Because this children's movie about a rabbit who just wants to be a cop is actually a retelling of a long-standing conspiracy theory that crack cocaine was devised to destroy black communities in America. Bet you didn't see that one coming. Whoa, time out, Matt Pat. You, the skeptical viewer, are probably shouting, Disney may go dark, but they don't go that dark. Hey, I understand your skepticism, but Disney is no stranger to drug use. Remember when Dumbo drinks some water that has champagne in it and gets so wasted that he hallucinates pink elephants and wakes up hungover in a tree? Or when Alice from Alice in Wonderland eats some special mushrooms that make her perceptions of reality change? And when it comes to drugs, there's even a Breaking Bad joke in the movie. And if you want to see how dark Disney is willing to go, did you watch Maleficent? If you did, you probably understand that that was pretty much a fairy tale retelling of the story of a rape survivor. Yeah, Disney makes fun animated movies that are for kids, but they sure aren't afraid to tackle some pretty intense stuff for the benefit of the adults in the audience. So why not crack cocaine? And by that I mean, why would they not talk about crack cocaine and not, why shouldn't we all do crack cocaine? Crack is whack, kids. Just say no. Other Reagan-era slogans. Now obviously, the movie's characters don't smoke actual crack, but Zootopia has its own substance called night howlers, and the similarities between crack and night howlers are pretty surprising. One last reminder that it's about to strike spoiler o'clock, so if you're afraid of turning back into a pumpkin, it's time to run away from the ball now. The ball being this video. That metaphor just spun wildly out of control. Spoilers ahead, let's go. Evidence number 1. Night howler serum and crack are both synthesized from harmless plants. As we see in Zootopia, night howlers are flowers that grow wild on Judy's parents' carrot farm. Nobody had any idea that they were key to some psychotropic drug until a fox tells them so. Even after they've been harvested, Judy mistakes the bulbs for onions when she stops a weasel who's stealing them to turn them into night howler serum. Similarly, if you took crack cocaine back to its most basic form, you'd probably walk right on past it without another thought. Crack, and cocaine in general, comes from the leaves of the coca plant, which is indigenous to much of South and Central America. Raw coca is so harmless that most people make it into tea, or put it into habit-forming sodas back in the day. But concentrating coca extract from several pounds of leaves results in a few grams of pure Colombian nose candy. Of course, then you have to chemically treat the powder version of cocaine and and cook it to turn it into crack, so there is a lot of lab work that goes into turning leaves into crack. And in Zootopia, we get a good look at the complicated chemistry lab used to produce night howler serum by Doug the Sheep and his partners. Given the variety and sophistication of equipment we see in the lab, it's reasonable to conclude that synthesizing night howler serum and crack cocaine are similar processes. But this leads to one question: why crack and not something like, say, crystal meth? I mean, again, there's a Breaking Bad reference in this scene after all. Well, here's the thing. Crystal meth isn't made from living plant matter. Meth's active ingredients are usually synthesized from chemical sources, like cough medicine. Besides, we all know that the only use Walter White has for flowers is poisoning innocent children. Oh, isn't this a happy episode? Can't wait for this one to get suggested against all those Disney toy unboxing videos. Anyway, let's cheer things up a bit. Here's a cute picture of a sloth. Oh, he's such a cutie. Oh, look at this guy. Alright, back to crack. Evidence number 2. Night howlers and crack cocaine affect user in the same way. While Zootopia doesn't tell us a whole lot about what it's like to be on night howler serum, we can get some clues by observing those who are under its influence. Emmett Otterton scratches up the entire backseat of his limousine, rambles incoherently about the night howlers, and then attacks his driver for no reason. When Judy goes to question the driver, we see that the night howlers affect animals almost instantly, as one second they're having a pleasant conversation and the next he goes full-on rage virus on her. So night howler effects include mania, incoherence, and near-instant aggression. How does this compare with crack? Speaking from personal experience, I have no idea. No experience in the drug realm. Trust me, we go to some pretty crazy lengths to research these episodes, but not that far. I'm not passing out crack pipes in the edit room and taking notes. However, a butt ton of internet research shows that it matches up pretty well. Effects of smoking crack include restlessness, anxiety, irritability, and in large doses, aggression, paranoia, and delusions. Running through walls, however, not on that list. Sorry, Dave. As for how fast you feel the effects of crack after you've smoked it, it's hard to locate an exact number, but smoking a drug is the fastest way to get it into your bloodstream outside of injecting it. And some of the most official sounding people on the internet talking about crack claim that it works almost instantly. Obviously, the drugs aren't meant to be exactly the same. This is an allegory after all, but based on their effects, they might as well be. Evidence number 3. Night howlers and crack affect the same groups. Zootopia makes a point to make sure that we know that predators are the minority, and that predators are the only ones quote-unquote going savage as a result of the night howler serum. While the movie doesn't explicitly tell us which minority predators are, it's pretty clear that we're talking about African Americans. I alluded to it before, but we see Nick Wilde the fox denied service at an ice cream parlor simply because he's a predator. And the tension between Zootopia's police force and predators is a transparent allusion to the issues brought up in the hashtag Black Lives Matter movement. Also, Assistant Mayor Bellwether tells us that Zootopia's population is 10% predator, a very similar mark to the 12.3% of the US population that's African American. The predators are also all disappearing from Zootopia's Precinct 1, which is referred to as the city center when Judy is assigned to it at her graduation from the police academy. All of this mirrors the group that was hit hardest by crack cocaine in the 1980s, inner city African Americans. A paper by future freakonomist Stephen Levitt stated that the incidence of crack usage per capita was 10 times as high in large cities with low-income urban populations such as New York, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. Crack also affected black communities really disproportionately, as during the crack boom of the 80s and early 90s, 85% of arrests made related to crack were of African Americans. But I'm sure some of you are probably still skeptical. Sure, night howlers make you act like you're on crack, affected minority communities, and come from plants. So what? In this movie, there's a big government conspiracy around the night howlers. Assistant Mayor Bellwether is the one behind the drug getting spread, developing a serum that her minions administer to predators via dart gun. She admits that she began the conspiracy to ensure that the prey majority could keep the peace by making everyone afraid of predators. As she puts it, fear always works. But it's not like in real life there was some big government conspiracy to provide African Americans with crack out of paranoia for national safety, right? Right? Well, evidence number 4. Night howlers and crack are both government conspiracies. There are some OG theorists out there who believe that the crack cocaine epidemic back in the 1980s came from a similar kind of government conspiracy as that shown in Zootopia. And before I go on, let me take a minute to get serious. I should mention that this is a really controversial theory and not one to take lightly. If you're interested in any of this, do some research and reading for yourself. There's no way that in the final minutes of my video on Zootopia that I can give this topic the true depth and explanation that it deserves. It's my goal with this show to just inspire you guys to learn more about the world around you and not always take news stories at face value. Anyway, regardless of the truth of this theory, it reeks of the events depicted in Zootopia. In 1996, a San Jose journalist named Gary Webb wrote a 3-part report called Dark Alliance, which exposed a complicated web of connections between the American government and the spread of crack cocaine in the predominantly African-American neighborhood of South Los Angeles. Like I've already said, it's a really complicated story that I won't get too deep into here, but basically America, afraid of the spread of communism during the Cold War, supported a guerrilla resistance group known as the Contras. Not those gorillas, gorilla. Though it's an easy mistake considering that this is Zootopia. You know what? Never mind. Just use gorillas. Use the gorillas. And no, the Contras is not referring to the old NES game. Anyway, this support of the Contras resulted in the CIA becoming involved with a bunch of drug smugglers. And this is 100% true. A Senate report confirmed that the drug traffickers had been provided with federal money. Once the funding for the Contras ran out, they were given the green light to raise money for themselves. And how do you do that if you're a small Central American country? Lemonade stands? Bake sales? Nope. Drugs. They flooded the West Coast with cheap cocaine while the government willingly looked the other way. Or, as some speculate, provided planes to aid in the shipment of the narcotics between countries. By 1987, crack was ravaging practically all of America's large cities, hitting low-income black neighborhoods the hardest. The dealer who started it all, a man by the name of Ricky Ross, believes that spreading crack to African Americans was a conscious choice by the government, one that then-President Ronald Reagan made out of a desire to keep the country safe from the Soviet Union and the spread of communism. Ross has said, quote, "I believe that they felt it was more valuable to sacrifice a particular sector of America and a race of people in America in order to save the whole country." End quote. It's an idea that Mayor Lionheart echoes towards the end of Zootopia, saying that they did, quote, "the wrong thing for the right reasons," end quote. Zootopia even seems like it's making references to specific instances of the crack epidemic. In the movie, Mayor Lionheart gets set up to make it look like he's behind the Night Howler scheme and gets put in jail, only to return to power after his release. It's awfully similar to Washington, D.C. Mayor Marion Barry, who was caught smoking crack, jailed, and then re-elected as mayor when he was released from prison. Stay classy, DC. Long story short, the level of government involvement with the spread of crack in America is still in question, but if I ever go missing, know it was the government silencing me for this video, or the one where I researched atomic bombs and Batman, or my old Polybius video back on game theory. Man, I've got to be on so many watch lists at this point. Anyway, there you have it. Zootopia, educating our children about a government conspiracy to spread an organic rage drug to inner city minority groups. Kinda makes you yearn for the simpler days of princesses with Stockholm Syndrome. But hey, that's just a theory. A depressing theory. And a conspiracy theory. But most of all, a film theory. And cut.